So we're here speaking with Dale McGowan from the Foundation Beyond Belief. And Dale, if people don't know about you or the foundation, could you let them know who you are and what the foundation does?
Sure. I'm executive director of the foundation, and it is a humanist charitable foundation. It's a membership foundation that supports charities around the world. And the way it works, people sign up for an automatic monthly donation in the amount of their choice. And then we feature 5 charities per quarter, and people are able to distribute their funds however they'd like among those 5 charities. So sometimes we'll have members who are really interested in human rights. They might put 100% of their donations toward human rights each time, or somebody might split it 50-50 between poverty and education. We just allow the members to distribute however they'd like. At the end of each quarter, we send 100% of the money that was collected to the charities that were featured. And at the moment, we're giving grants totaling about $60,000 per quarter. Since the foundation launched a little over 4 years ago, we've raised over $1.6 million for these charities.
Oh my God.
That's amazing. Have you been the executive director the entire time?
I have, yeah.
Why were you chosen as the director?
I founded the organization, and that gives you a leg up.
That's the best way to do it. You know,
that's right.
You just start your own. You play by your own rules. That's awesome. Okay. I was at the Humanism at Work conference here in Chicago for the first day, and one of the people said something very interesting. They said, they really love these large donations. They love to get lots of money. But one of the things that they were very, very happy to get, and one of the things that they were stressing that people who don't donate should give, is these monthly donations, because it helps these people budget. Is that something that you are interested in doing as well? Lower amounts, but monthly?
Yeah, that was actually the intention of the foundation from the beginning. The idea. One thing that has to be made clear is the foundation isn't about demonstrating that humanists and atheists are good people. That's a fine byproduct, but that's not at all what we're about. What we're actually trying to do is create a giving culture in the humanist community. And people are already plenty generous as individuals. People support causes that they care about. But to create a habit of giving, that's a different thing. That's a different level of engagement. That's what we wanted to do. And one of my favorite things to get is, I'll get a message from somebody who, a couple of months ago, I got a message from somebody who's a member, and he just graduated from college. He doesn't have a lot of money. He's in his first job, and he signed up for a membership at $10 a month to give to these charities. And at the end of the year, he sent for his tax receipt, and he said, "Oh my gosh, I gave $120 this year to charities." And he said there's absolutely no way he would have done that if he hadn't been part of this organization. He might have given $5 here, $10 there when something passed his view. But by committing to this sort of monthly engagement, he was able to say, hey, as a humanist, I'm engaged in making the world a better place. I'm doing it on a regular basis. And I gave much more this year than I would have if I was just on my own.
Yeah, it reminds me of... locally, the public radio station is WBEZ, the local 91.5.
Yeah.
And a couple of years back, they came out with what they call their high fidelity program, right? Where you instead of having the quarterly drive or the, biannual drive or whatever they did, you could basically sign up and it just hits your credit card every month. And it was very clear from the get-go that that's a better system. That's just a system that's going to generate a better and more consistent stream of revenue. So that makes a lot of sense, and those models seem to have a lot to inform one another. I'm curious, how do you choose the charities that you're going to be engaging and supporting?
Well, we are constantly searching for charities, and we have a nomination form on our charity, so on our website. So any charity, any group or individual that wants to nominate somebody, thinks they'd be a good beneficiary, can fill out that form. But we're also constantly scouring the nonprofit world to find charities that we think will really interest our members, that'll get people really engaged. And we're always looking for charities relatively small. Our preference is for budgets under $10 million a year, which sounds huge, but in the charity world, that's actually, these are the really small to moderate sized charities that we're going after. because, the American Red Cross, they do great work, but they're not going to really notice our input. But if you have a charity with, let's say $3 or $4 million a year, and you drop a $12,000 grant on them, they actually notice. That's something that's going to really, be a significant contribution to their annual work. So we're looking for charities in that range. We're looking for evidence-based charities who give, good feedback on the effectiveness of their approaches. We're looking for charities that are good at telling their own stories. Charities that are out there. They're going to give us information that's going to allow us to tell their story to our members so that they can be engaged and enthusiastic about supporting as well. And then we want to see innovative approaches, some charities that are helping to create the model for the next wave of approaching whatever problem they're dealing with. There's a perfect example of that was there's an organization in Chicago called Cure Violence, which is actually run out of the University of Illinois Chicago. And it's an absolutely fascinating model they've got. They treat violence like an epidemic disease, and they actually apply disease models to the spread of violence and disease prevention epidemiology concepts to controlling violence, looking for vectors, looking for causes, isolating causes, and so on. And they've had this tremendous effectiveness in certain Chicago neighborhoods where they've actually caused the violence rate to plummet when they start to apply this disease model. That's the sort of thing that catches our attention. It caught the members' attention, and we ended up giving them a good level of support. I think they were a beneficiary about a year ago. So it's just, we have a database of, now I think we're up to almost 500 charities that have been deeply vetted by our vetting staff. And then we choose each quarter, we choose a slate that we think is going to be a good combination and a good group of unique charities to interest the members.
So when you donate to a charity, do you ask that they report back any information as far as metrics are concerned, or do you do all the vetting up front, donate, and then just kind of watch and see what happens with your money? In other words, do you ask specifically like, hey, I'm giving you $12,000 and here's what I'd like that $12,000 earmarked toward?
Yes, sometimes we earmark it. Sometimes we don't. We just say this is for, you're doing great work. We want to support that work. But we always ask for a report for how the money was spent. And some sort of indication that it had an effective impact. That's not something we used to do. When we started out at the beginning of 2010, our grants were fairly small. We only had a few members. We were giving grants in the neighborhood of about $1,000 to $1,200, which, for a nonprofit, they're grateful to receive that. But we asked less of them at that point. Now we're giving grants 10 times that size, $12,000 grants. And at that point, we can really sort of have the muscle to say, we really want to have a report on this. We really want to be able to take something to our members that shows that their contribution really made a difference.
So some people have extra cash, clearly, but some don't. Some don't have the extra cash, but they want to do charitable work. Do you help place anyone in any kind of charitable situation where they can do some sort of labor?
Actually, one of the things that our members expressed an interest in that pretty early on in going beyond the giving program and starting to create, sort of a more direct hands-on volunteering situation. So we created Volunteers Beyond Belief, which eventually grew into the Beyond Belief Network. We now have 95 humanist volunteer teams around the United States. I think now we're in over 30 states. And these are teams that are volunteering in their local communities, volunteering in food banks and homeless shelters, and doing blood drives and trash pickup and the whole range of volunteer work. So what you can do is go to our website. We've actually got it divided into humanist giving and volunteering. And you click on volunteering and you can get information about a volunteer team that might be in your community. So basically what we're trying to do is get existing humanist and atheist groups to make volunteering a bigger part of what they do. And that's been working really well through that program.
So there's many different types of organizations have like a year of service. Now, when I was at the Humanism at Work conference, I had a chance to see that some people were doing that with a humanist twist. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Actually, there's been an evolution around that. You've got the National Day of Prayer every year. And initially, there was a movement in free thought to have a National Day of Action. The idea is, we want to go beyond just mumbling some words. We want to actually make a difference happen with our hands, with our actions in the world. This has actually expanded to a week of action that we typically do in the week right around the time of the National Day of Prayer. And this year, we served as sort of a focal point. We worked with Adam Shalom, who is a secular humanist rabbi there in Chicago, and also with the help of Harvard humanists, and put together the Week of Action and encouraged groups around the country to specifically focus on service and volunteering in their communities during that week. And we were able to get a lot of sort of great collective work done during that time.
Now, hang on a minute. Are you suggesting that doing stuff is actually better than just hoping really hard toward the sky?
Well, the research is out. The jury is still out on this, but it's kind of the hunch we've got.
It's interesting. I work on occasion with some Catholic charities, and one of the Catholic charities that I work with is a very interesting model. They get students that just graduated from college, and they ask them to dedicate a year in a place. So the one in particular that I'm thinking of is in Denver, Colorado. And the students come there, they support them for a full year, and they let those students go and work in the communities. They actually get them jobs and let them work in the communities as full-time volunteers for an entire year, and then they spend that year reflecting as well as working full-time for these charities. Is there now? There was a group of people that kind of went off and did a whole travel around the world sort of a bit of service for the humanists, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. This is a new program of ours. We sponsored something called Pathfinders Project in this past year, and this was a year to lay the groundwork for a permanent humanist service corps, an international humanist service corps. So for 1 year, this team of humanists, 3 humanists traveled around the world. There was initially a 4th humanist in the team as well. She had to come home a little bit early, but the 3 humanists finished out the year, went to a total of 8 countries, 10 different volunteer sites, and volunteered in a whole range of activities. Education, they worked in a school for underprivileged kids in Cambodia. They worked on water sustainability projects in South America. They worked on a human rights work in Africa, primarily in northern Ghana. They did an education project in Uganda. They worked with Leo Igwe in Ghana in the witchcraft accusation camps. These are camps where women who are kicked out of their communities because they're accused of witchcraft come to these camps, and Leo is working with them and advocating for the victims of these accusations, and the Pathfinders worked with them as well. So the purpose of this year was to do the research and lay the groundwork for a permanent corps. Now, Connor Robinson, who was the leader of that trip, is now the director of this program. For the next year, he's going to be planning the Humanist Service Corps, and starting next summer, we're going to be sending a team to Ghana for 1 year in a single place. This is the idea of the new corps, similar to the Peace Corps. It's like a Peace Corps for humanists. And so you can watch our website for announcements. We're going to be accepting applications in the fall. I believe it's October that the application period is going to open up. But this is a really exciting new program. The hope is to have permanent humanist service teams working globally starting next year.
We've sort of alluded to it, and we've mentioned it a few times, the Humanism at Work conference. What was that all about, and what kind of what was your plan going in, and how do you think it went overall?
Oh, it was just a joy. It was really a fantastic thing. The idea of Humanism at Work was to have well, one of the things was to have an atheist conference that didn't primarily talk about God. Most of the free thought conferences I go to, it's fun and I love it and it's terrific. And there's a lot of poking religion in the eye and all that kind of stuff. It's really great. But there's a point when I'd like to actually talk about something other than religion and other than bouncing ourselves off this other worldview. So the idea was to have a conference that's talking entirely about what we are doing, what our positive contribution is as humanists, and how we can build a better humanist contribution to philanthropy, to volunteerism, how we can increase our engagement as individuals. I wanted to focus entirely on the stories of people, these amazing people who are out in the world now putting their humanism to work, people like Leo Igwe and like Hemley Gonzalez, who runs a charity in Calcutta that is currently building a school and working on poverty in the slums of Calcutta, and doing it right. Not doing it in this way that the Sisters of the Missionaries of Charity, Mother Teresa's organization. There's been a lot of revelations recently about the fact that this charity, the practices of this charity, are really terrifying when you look into, the way they actually work in these conditions. And whether it's a religious organization or not doesn't matter. It's an organization that's not addressing the causes in a way that's going to be sustainable and build capacity in these communities. So Hemley is there. He's devoting his life to serving the poor of Calcutta and lifting them out of that poverty, primarily through education. That's really an absolutely fantastic example. Sarah Blaine, who lived homeless on the streets of, lived without shelter on the streets of Phoenix for a month last year to draw attention to a shelter that's closing. Carmen Zepp, who has started feeding the homeless in Raleigh, North Carolina every Saturday. These are humanists who are out there putting humanism to work. And we wanted to bring them to Chicago. We wanted to have them tell their stories. And then we wanted to have speakers talking about evidence-based giving and how individuals can get more involved in their own communities. So we just wanted that focus to be, a really different kind of conference. And it was amazing. I knew it was going to be good. On paper, you could see, wow, that's great. Look at these great speakers. Look at this great plan. But when you actually get them there and you start to get the cumulative effect of these stories and of this approach and the positive energy in the crowd, it was stunning. I just was really blown away by what it was like there.
It strikes me that it's amazing what you can do when you don't look at poverty as a virtue. When you look at poverty as what it is, which is not something to be sort of enshrined as a virtuous act, like, oh man, we got to have some poverty now and again. When you look at it as a fucking problem to solve, one of the things that you had mentioned was that you weren't doing this to show that humanists are charitable, to show that humanists are capable of giving too. But I can't help but think, man, the word needs to get out. Like, people need to know. Like, everybody needs to know. Not so we can pat ourselves on the back and say, great job, but so that more humanists can come out of the woodwork and contact your organization and volunteer their time and volunteer their money and give to the organization what they have to offer. Because Cecil and I have been moved doing this show many times by the unbelievable generosity when we've done some charitable fundraising. So what kinds of things do you do to get the message out, to get to draw attention to what it is that you're focusing on? Do you focus on the charities? Do you focus on the foundation? What are your methods to sort of alert the media and alert the public and get the word out?
Well, there are lots of prongs to it. Social media is a big way we do this. We've got over 11,000 people in our Facebook group. And we're constantly telling not just our own story, not just what's going on in the foundation, but whatever our 5 featured charities are for the given quarter, we're constantly mining their own messaging to bring that work to our members. The idea is to keep people engaged in what's going on in the world. It's really easy to be detached from that, but we're getting better and better, I think, at storytelling in an effective way. An example is it's most effective to tell the story about one person. You don't want to go in and say, we helped 600 girls in Kenya get an education. What you want to do is focus on this one girl. Focus on Beatrice, the story of Beatrice, who got an education through CamFed because we supported CamFed, and this is an example of what our work is doing. You want to tell the story of the student who is now in college in Guatemala on a full 4-year ride on the Foundation Beyond Belief Scholarship. This is an indigenous Guatemalan student who showed a lot of promise in high school, but was not going to be able to go to college until we stepped forward and created this college scholarship, full 4-year ride through Roots and Wings International. So it's by bringing all of those stories to people and saying, join us in this, be a part of this, give $5 a month, give 10, whatever what we really recommend people do is to give what you won't notice. Start there. Don't say, okay, I'm going to give something that hurts right away because, maybe you won't do that. But sign up for something that you won't notice coming out of your account. For a lot of people, that might be $5 a month. And then 6 months in, all of a sudden you realize, hey, I haven't even noticed that coming out. I'm going to bump it up. So you click on the button on our website that allows you to go up a level, and you go up to $10 a month or 15 or 20, whatever you want to do. So the technique is through social media storytelling, through videos. We have quarterly videos that go out, through press releases, through interviews. We try to constantly keep this story in front of the general public and also in front of the free thought community so we can see not only that this is going on, but how gratifying it is to be a part of this, to contribute to this kind of thing, and to be engaged in a positive way in building a better world.
Do I get, if I do $50 a month, do I get a free tote bag or?
You know what's interesting about that? We actually tried that, not a tote bag, but we tried some incentives like that, and the members slapped it down. It was
awesome.
Really interesting.
That's great.
2 years ago or something, we had some, hey, if you donate during this month, you're going to be in a drawing or something, and we got emails from people who said, stop that.
Good for them.
It's interesting. I've actually looked at some of the research on this since then and realized that it's one thing if it's a public radio station or something. That's a different thing. But if you are a charitable organization, people want to give and feel the satisfaction of being a generous person. That's actually that feels good. If instead I juxtapose this thing, I insert this gift in there. Hey, give because people really need our help, and you might win this prize. Really ruins it for people. Yeah. So we have actually backed entirely off those kind of incentives. We just do it by telling our members how grateful we are for their support, and by letting them see the impact of their donations. How did you
get your start in philanthropy?
Well, I really have to go back to my first work in the free thought community, which was in non-religious parenting. I was looking for a need in the free thought community, and I'm a parent myself, and I went looking for books, looking for resources on non-religious parenting, and there was just nothing out there at all. So I ended up creating Parenting Beyond Belief and Raising Freethinkers, which were the first two comprehensive resources for non-religious parents. And that was great. Those are successful. They're selling very well. I do seminars and talks and that sort of thing on non-religious parenting. And then I was ready to look for the next need. What's something else that the free thought community needs? And I recognized that this systematic giving culture is something that we really needed to have. This is an advantage that religious people have. And, we can just put it right out there. When they point out that churchgoers give more of their discretionary income than non-churchgoers, lots of studies show that this is actually the case. I'd actually be shocked if it wasn't true. Because these people 52 times a year walk into a church and have a gold plate passed in front of them full of the donations of their friends and neighbors. And then they're asked to donate or not, and they're in this inspirational setting. They've heard about the need in the world, and they plop a 20 in the plate. That is an incentive, and it's also a systematic giving opportunity. I wanted to create the same kind of thing for the free thought community, and I started thinking, well, how could we do this? We're not gathering once a week in a room, at least not all of us. How can we do this? And so we gradually built this model of rotating charities, of an automatic donation, and of us bringing the story to the members. So it was really just a matter of trying to fill a need and hoping that people would show up, that they would come when we opened up the opportunity, and they did, and the support has just been terrific.
Have you ever been turned down when you tried to help a charity? Have you ever said, like, hey, we're Foundation Beyond Belief, and they said,
yeah,
pass?
Yes, we have.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
About 5 times, I think I think we're up to 5 times now. But I mean, I have to preface that by saying 115 times we have not been turned down. So it's much less common than you might think. When we are turned down, and I don't give the names of the charities or anything like that because it turns into a thing.
I'm sorry, you can edit that out.
Because the reason I don't actually is I want us to be about the positive thing. And if we were to say, hey, these idiots, wouldn't accept our one of the stories got out one time. But if we said that becomes what it's all about. And then the narrative becomes, oh, look at the atheists whining again. Right. I don't want that to be the narrative. I want the narrative to be the positive stuff we're doing. I want to talk about the people who are willing to work with us. So, but what happened, it's interesting. The ones who turn it down almost always turn it down for the same reason. They are worried about other people's reactions. It's not even their own dogma. It's not even their own bigotry. They're concerned about alienating other donors. And I think they always overestimate this. I really think it's something that, and this is something that charities do all the time. There was a story in the news a couple of years ago. I don't even remember the charity now, but Rod Blagojevich's wife, Patty. So you're in Illinois, right? So is that her name?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Patty Blagojevich wanted to give $50,000 to a muscular dystrophy charity or something like that, and they turned her down. And the reason was that they felt that associating with her, and this is right in the middle of the whole mess, was going to, cast a bad light on the charity. So it's actually a calculation that charities make all the time. We're hoping that by being a positive force in philanthropy and being this engaged in a positive way, that's going to start to go away. That over time, this kind of engagement is going to make people see us as, philanthropists. Just see us as no different from anybody else, and to not worry about what some third party is going to think. So yes, it happens once in a while. It's the great minority of times, and I just try to breeze right past it.
Is paying my mortgage considered a charity? If so, I will not.
You know what you can do? Fill out the form on our website and see what happens.
Tom will fill it out for everything because he's the cheapest man I've ever met. So he will
fill
it out.
He'll
fill it out for his cup of Starbucks in the morning.
Just mark the form.
Yeah. So one of the things that you did mention, and I did want to touch on this, you had said that, religious people do give more money, and there are studies that show. Now, one of the things that I think is interesting is when you give money to a church, if you're sitting in the church, you're paying for a lot of what that church is doing, which is housing the people that put on all the things that the church does. There's a lot of overhead costs. What kind of overhead costs does the foundation have?
Well, we have less than a church, first of all. But we have 10 part-time staffers. We have website costs, we have transaction costs and that sort of thing. But those don't come out of the charity donations. That's one of the key things in our model. 100%. When you give $1, that dollar goes to the charity that you designate.
No kidding.
Now, members have the option of saying they can opt to designate a certain percentage for the foundation as well if they wish. And some members do and some members don't. It's perfectly fine. Most of our operations are actually paid for by outside grants and donations. If people give us a one-time donation, like in our year-end drive, or if we get a grant from an outside agency or something, that's what's running our operations. We decided early on that people can go directly to these charities and support them if they want. So if we're inserting ourselves as a middleman, if we're trying to bring the humanist community together, we didn't want to devalue the donations by taking a percentage off the top.
Right.
So right away we said we are going to fund ourselves through separate donation streams, and all of the donations to the charities go to the charities.
That's a terrible way to get rich.
Yeah, it's not working at all.
Saying, like, you're really never. I mean, I may not be the world's best businessman, but you are never going to get rich.
Never going to get rich.
This is definitively not Scrooge McDuck approved. That's all I'm saying.
So what are the charities that you're working with now? You said there's 5 charities that you guys work with. What are the charities that you're working with right now?
Yeah, this is, we always have 5 categories. So there's always an education charity, always human rights, always poverty and health, one charity for the natural world, and then there's a charity called Challenge the Gap is one of our categories. Challenge the Gap is actually always a religious charity. This is an interesting option. We choose one progressive religious charity that does not proselytize and does good work for the common good. And that's something that our members expressed an interest in early on, and some people just enthusiastically support it. Some people don't want to, and they put their money off to the side. But one charity for each category. In poverty and health right now, we're supporting an organization called Soil. They work in Haiti, and there are two problems in Haiti. Two endemic problems. One is human waste disposal, because it frequently gets into the water supply and causes diseases. And the other one is they have infertile soil. So this organization has actually figured out a way to convert human waste into soil, into arable soil components. And they are sort of helping to solve both of these problems at once. That's one of those innovative approaches that we always look for. In the natural world category, it's Rainforest Foundation US, which is a rainforest conservation organization. In education, Washington Women's Employment is an organization working with women in the Washington, D.C. area, women who are in the lower socioeconomic level and in need of employment training in order to enter the workforce. In human rights, we've got an interesting organization right now called Footsteps, which is an organization that works with people who have been in conservative Orthodox Jewish communities, especially in New York, and are looking to leave those communities and enter the mainstream world. And this is a traumatic transition because frequently these people, they have no experience with technology. They have no knowledge of the outside world. In some cases, they don't speak English because they have only spoken Hebrew or Yiddish in the home. And this is an organization that helps people transition out of these cloistered communities into the larger world. And then in Challenge the Gap, it's actually another outstanding Chicago organization called the Night Ministry. This is an interfaith organization, several different churches in the Chicago area who work with the homeless, and they have like a bus. It's kind of an RV that goes around and brings supplies, personal supplies, and helps also provide some programs to help homeless people transition out of homelessness. Really an outstanding program. And one of the nice things is in Challenge the Gap, if we feature an interfaith organization, they're almost guaranteed to not be proselytizing, because as soon as you have a Jewish organization, a Christian organization, an Islamic organization, these various things working together, then they're not actually even able to effectively proselytize a single view, and they will just get down to the business of doing good work. And we look to be sure that that's what's going on, that there's no proselytizing, and that there's an effective program that's actually going on, and the Night Ministry is doing that. So that's our slate for this quarter.
Now, if people were going to find Foundation Beyond Belief or want to donate, how would they go about doing that?
You go to foundationbeyondbelief.org and you click on Contribute, and that'll take you to the page. Or Join Today. We've got several links all over the homepage that can set you up, and you can either set up a monthly donation through PayPal or credit card or Google Wallet. We've got several ways to do that. You can also just click in and get more information about the organization, foundationbeyondbelief.org.
Thank you so much for your work. It is amazing, the things that you're doing. And just know that a small part of the humanist community, at least us two, we really stand behind you, and we think you're doing amazing stuff.
Oh, I appreciate that very much. Thanks for that.